The Doctor. In the TARDIS. Next stop, everywhere.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the TARDIS or the Basement of Solitude, take your pick, as we talk some not-so-classic Doctor Who. We're talking New Who, but New Who from a while ago, and I'm here with my partner in time and a very special guest who we'll talk to in a couple seconds, Jesse Jackson. How you doing, Jesse?
I am great, Charles. We have gotten past discussing the latest season, and now we are going back where we are cherry picking episodes we want to discuss. So almost all of them we can be assured are ones we love. And this, what we're talking about today, is a 1-2 punch of just greatness. And I am so glad that our esteemed guest picked them.
Yeah, so without any further ado, or a don't, let's welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, Christine Peruski. How you doing? Welcome back.
I'm pretty good, Charles.
We're
Thank
so
you.
happy. We're so happy to have you back.
I am happy to be back in the TARDIS, keeping a 6-foot distance from both of you, of course.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Because we are doing our social distancing.
Yes.
And just to be on the safe side, we're also doing it through time.
Yes.
Yes.
So we're not taking any chances here.
We've got our timey-wimey cell phones.
Exactly.
I am very glad that Charles is the one editing this podcast, because I would be very tempted to take parts of our pre-starting discussion and add it as a post-credit sequence. We are discussing the joys and the excitement of our new world with the coronavirus. Yes.
So everybody, I know maybe some of you like me have been working from home, or some of you unfortunately cannot work from home. So we're here to kind of take your mind off of the coronavirus for about 90 minutes, if we're lucky, because we're all three of us are a bit chatty, shall we say. But, we know it's been a rough couple of weeks. It doesn't look like it's going to get much better anytime soon, sad to say. But, hey, Next Stop here everywhere is we got your back, because, hey, that's a great thing about podcasts, right, is that you can do them in the comfort of your own home. And that's what we're doing here. So without any further ado, let's talk about, here at episode 176, we're talking the Impossible Astronaut / Day of the Moon, the great Series 6 opening two-parter, written by Stephen Moffat, directed by Toby Haynes, who directed the Pandorica Opens, / The Big Bang, which was the great Series 5 two-part finale, and also A Christmas Carol that Jesse and I talked back at Christmas. And, of course, starring Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor, Karen Gillan as Amy Pond, and Arthur Darvill as Rory Williams. One of, I think, Doctor Who fandoms, I'd say it's safe to say, one of their favorite Doctor companion pairings. Is that? I'm getting that vibe from you, Christine. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. Now, my favorite companion, of course, is Donna, but if I were picking a favorite couple in the Whoniverse, and there honestly isn't a lot to choose from, but there are some other couples out there. But Amy and Rory are definitely my favorite couple. I love the two of them together.
Or at least one of the favorite TARDIS teams, shall we say. because this is a bit of a trio in this one. All right.
I feel these three work the best together as a whole group.
I think so. All right. So before we get into our guest cast, and I also want to talk a little bit about the prequel episode and to the Impossible Astronaut. But let's get some general thoughts before we get rolling. Christine?
General thoughts?
Yes. What are your general thoughts on this?
My general
as we
thought
wait
is
for Jesse Jackson to return, hopefully.
yes, he has disappeared. Well,
I think the silence
really-
got him.
yeah, who?
Exactly.
I really love, reviewing this episode and of course related episodes in this season. I think this has got to be one of my favorite seasons, if not my favorite. It would of course require me to go back and watch all of Who to be sure, but I love big story arcs. I love setting up a mystery. I love returning to that story throughout the season, and this one kept me intrigued the entire time, and it has one of the better villains, I think, of modern Who, or actually all of Who. There's something to be said about the unknown horror, like a terror, something you can't see or can't understand, or in this case,
Right.
can't even remember. And the fact that they look like stretched out humanoids, almost gray aliens, which is topical for the time period in this episode, this story. I think it works so well together. It's just one of my favorite stories in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And
I'm
I'm
really
getting invaded by dogs, by the way.
That's okay. As a cat owner, I understand how the animals can just pop up when you're least expecting them.
Yeah.
All right. So we're waiting for Jesse to hopefully reemerge at some point. My thoughts on this one, General. I really like this one. This is I think, in my opinion, I think this is the Matt Smith era at its peak. Series 6, I think, is when they were firing on all cylinders. Moffat had kind of figured out everything. Matt had figured out his Doctor. Amy and Rory were clicking, obviously, now that they were married. And, just a lot of great ideas, new ideas thrown into this mix. First and foremost, like you said, with this one, we get the silence. And we'll talk about them in one of our segments, but they kind of, return to the idea that Moffat came up with, and we'll talk about this a little bit, but that you have these villains that you can't even remember is such an innovative idea, and it's a very Stephen Moffat idea, I think. Is then just the creativity involved, and the fact that they kind of look like Edvard Munch's The Scream, if you're familiar at all with that painting.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
I
do
think
look
visually
like
that's kind of where they're taken from for the representation. And so,
I don't know. I think combining them with like the gray aliens that abductees talk about, as well as a man in black suit.
yes, it's kind of interesting because they're for some reason, and we'll talk about this. I guess we should start thinking about like where do the Silents go shopping for suits? do they have is it like a really big and tall store or where is it? Because
tall and forgotten.
Whatever it is, looks like they kind of need a good steam iron. I'm just saying they're a little rumpled, but maybe that's just me. All right.
I think it's the material,
Yeah, that's true. It's really crushed velvet. That's it. Yeah.
Ooh.
Not just crushed velvet.
It looked really plasticky to me.
It does. It does.
Those Halloween costumes that you buy from the cheap plastic bag thing.
Yes. Yeah, they made themselves like a suit out of a trash bag, a hefty trash bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. But guest cast. Let's run down that while we're waiting for Jesse.
Let's start.
All right.
He needs no introduction because you've seen him in every. If you watched one TV show, he was probably in it.
Yeah. Mark Sheppard. Obviously, Canton as the young Canton Everett Delaware III, as Christine knows him as playing Crowley on Supernatural.
Oh, I know him from so many things.
Yes, yeah, he is. He's a great character actor.
Let's not forget Badger from Firefly.
Badger from Firefly, that was on my list. Romo Lampkin on the modern Battlestar Galactica, the one that from just, I want to say, geez, is that almost like 15 years old now? Geez, that.
Yeah, well, my memory on all of it is very fuzzy, so that sounds about right.
Yeah, and then recently he's turned up on the DC Universe, on this DC Universe series Doom Patrol, as a character named Willoughby Kipling, who's essentially a version of John Constantine.
Ah,
So he plays that kind of character.
he does have the voice for that.
Yeah, much more kind of alcoholic John Constantine.
Well, you get smoking or you get alcohol. Pick one.
Exactly. So if you've seen Doom Patrol, I highly recommend it because he's in a couple of episodes and he's fabulous. His father, William Morgan Sheppard, turns up in this episode as the old Canton. Yes, that is Mark Sheppard's father. All right, as Jesse makes his return.
Any second now.
Bueller.
Sir, he called in. Another movie I haven't watched in a long time.
Exactly. All right. Well, his icon is here. Whether he's here or not was yet to be determined. All right. So I'll just moving on. Yes. William Morgan Sheppard, who played the old Canton. I first got to know him as an actor, and on the 1980 series Max Headroom, where he played a character named Blank Reg. If you ever got to watch Max Headroom, it's very like a total cult classic, but highly recommended. He was also recently in a couple of Star Trek projects. He was the Klingon prison warden in Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country, and he was the Vulcan science minister that told Spock, "Hey, you're not good enough to go to the Vulcan Science Academy because you're a half-breed." That a-hole. He was in Star Trek 2009, if you remember. And as a David Lynch fan, I have to mention that he was also played the character Mr. Reindeer in the David Lynch film Wild at Heart.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a shout out to my fellow Ghostwood co-host Zan Sprouse, who would totally get that reference. All right. So now, Jesse, now that you're back, let me finish up the guest cast, and then we can finally get your general thoughts on the season. All right. We also get the introduction of Frances Barber as Madame Kovarian, whom, of course, we get to learn more of in A Good Man Goes to War, The Wedding of River Song, and so on. Stuart Milligan played Richard Nixon, and he was a character named Colonel Stark, no relation to Tony, I'm guessing, in the Doctor Who animated movie Dreamland, starring David Tennant, and Freema Agyeman as Martha Jones. And he played the voice of Tannoy in the Sarah Jane Adventures episodes Warriors of Kudlek, Parts 1 and 2. And he was also in the movie Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow and the Sean Connery 80s sci-fi classic Outland, if you're at all familiar with that film.
I feel like I may have seen that once.
Yeah. And then one more mention I would have mentioned as Jesse's pouring something.
Yeah.
I think he's tending bar over there.
Where's my drink?
Exactly. Apparently it's going to be on the rocks.
My new mic is very sensitive.
It is.
That's good to know.
Very loud. Yes.
Yes.
This actor named Marnix Vandebroek, who played the Silence in this one, the Silent, he was actually in a Harry Potter film, Harry Potter and the Prisoners of Azkaban, where he played the werewolf.
Oh.
Yeah.
What? You telling me that Lupin didn't do his own stunt work?
Yeah, I know, right?
What the hell?
He did it in Wonder Woman. Why couldn't he do it in Harry Potter? I don't know. What's up with that? All right, but just wanted to mention some our guest cast, and of course Alex Kingston as River Song, lest we forget.
Who's that?
Yeah, exactly. No. Check your hash marks. But I don't think I have to run down her resume, do I? Because I'm not gonna
No.
do it. I'm not gonna do it.
Please no.
No. All right, because we got a lot.
Wait.
Because we have a lot to talk about as
Arrow.
it is. Yes,
Let's do the
Arrow.
DC connection. Arrow.
Yep, DC Comics. Yep, she was on that. So and Jesse. All right. So what are your general thoughts before we get into talking Impossible Astronaut a little bit?
This was a joy to revisit. I'm not. It is very easy to say, "Oh, this was so great," compared to Classic Who, and that's not the case at all. But I appreciate the manicness of this Doctor. We're back where Rory is a little unsure of where he is in this trilogy, this love triangle, even though we later determined that it is truly, like the Doctor is a beloved uncle or grandpa, pick your, father figure you want, and it's truly Roy. I did notice he is not in the opening credits, I don't think.
Arthur Darvill, I thought he was.
He was. I blinked because, wrong episode.
Don't
And I
blink.
did not see it, so I will not argue with you here about that. And I've always been a huge River Song fan, and to see this early in the dance where the Doctor is not aware everything about who River is and what that means is just a really nice. It's nice to go back to this era of the Who universe and see what's happening.
Yep. All right. Well said. All right. So before we get into our main topics, let's talk just a little bit about the prequel to the Impossible Astronaut. I'm guessing maybe have you seen this? The little kind of 2-3 minute little mini episode where just to kind of refresh everybody's memory if you've seen it. It's essentially Nixon in the Oval Office, where he's kind of sitting at his desk at night, and the phone rings, and it's our Impossible Astronaut girl. And if that rings any bell, and the girl's voice is like telling him to look behind him, and Nixon's all like, "Well, how did you get this number?" And she says, like, they are everywhere and people see them every day. So kind of being very enigmatic instead of just saying, hey, there's these creatures called the Silence, right? And then Nixon insists there's nothing behind him. And the girl says the spacemen told her. Nixon's, of course, confused as hell by this. And then she says that's not important, how she, how she got the number, but the monsters are. And Nixon's very emphatic, saying there are no monsters in the Oval Office. And then the phone hangs up, and he leans back in his chair as the Silence stares at his back. So is this ringing any bells with anybody?
So, Charles,
yes,
I don't know if you're aware of this,
yes,
but you no longer can stream Doctor Who for free on Amazon.
That is very true.
And I know you,
but I have the Blu-rays.
I'm if you let me finish.
Okay.
And I know you are religious about buying every new season as it comes available on Blu-ray, and even classic series as they come available. You are a very good Doctor Who consumer.
Well, I'm very fortunate that I'm able to.
Yes, I am not, and it just I choose to spend my money elsewhere, and so.
Well, there is YouTube. It's on YouTube.
So I did my search to try to get the full episode and gave up and spent the $9.99 to get this season on Amazon. So thank you, BBC America. You get my money. Included in that, though, was the little prequels for all those episodes.
Right.
A little bit. So I did watch that, and I went, I'm sure at the time it was exciting because we were ready for New Who.
Right.
But after the fact, it's kind of, that was really a waste of 2 or 3 minutes. You kind of watch it before the episode. It's almost like a prelude. So. Yeah, it just didn't add that much to it. Sometimes some of these are really cool. Some of the mini episodes and kind of things that were online are really slick. And this one I was not as impressed with, but I did review it, ready to talk about it. Your explanation was more informative and more entertaining than the actual episode. That's how good you are, Charles.
Well, I try.
I can't actually remember if I ever saw that. I'm looking back through this document I made of like how to view the episodes in order, and I don't see it on my list because I put that together for my mom's first time viewing it, and I found all sorts of little shorts I didn't know about.
Because Moffat did a lot of those throughout Series 6 and Series 7
to kind of tease
episodes.
Yeah, something like that. I wonder if it was put together as a tease, which at the time, of course, would have been very enjoyable. Desperately waiting for the next
Absolutely.
season.
Yeah, because they were basically, it was a release to the internet when they first came out. And just kind of build up the hype. Yeah.
It seems to me, as someone who's very familiar with filming and how stuff like that works, it feels like it could have been a scene that was meant to go in the episode, but when they were putting it together, they realized there really was no good place to put it, but they didn't want to just toss it out. So they put it out there as a tease, which I think works great. It's nice to keep that off the cutting room floor and give it a place to go. Like, I don't know if either of you have seen Boondock Saints.
I know of it, but I haven't watched it.
Yeah, there is a wonderful deleted scene.
Sean Patrick Flannery's in that one.
Yes.
All right,
There's a wonderful deleted scene where the boys get a phone call from their mom in Ireland.
And Norman Reedus, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Before my God, Walking Dead. Walking Dead. That's what I know him
Daryl
from.
Dixon, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they get a wonderful phone call from their mom. It's a hilarious scene. And you know exactly where it goes in the movie. And it would have totally interrupted the flow of the story. It had no place in the movie, but I would never have wanted them to like just get rid of it and throw it away and not show everybody. Whenever I show somebody that movie, after we're done watching the movie, I'm like, you have to watch Phone Call with Mom. You have
Very funny. That's great.
So these little snippets like this that, are maybe not so good alone, but you can tell that it had a place in the story. It just wouldn't have flowed well. It's nice to be able to still see them.
I totally agree. That's awesome. All right. Let's dive right into the main discussion then. Like I told Christine earlier, 4 topics we're going to cover for everybody. First topic, we're going to talk about the Doctor River Song and the Impossible Astronaut. So, Jesse, let's start with you first.
Oh, not guest first. Okay.
I'm just throwing a quick curveball here.
That's good.
Since you kind of vanished on us, I thought I'd give you a chance to chime in first on this one.
It is so great to see the Doctor and River again. And it's also really cool to see the older Doctor, who has had so many experiences with River, and then the younger Doctor who has not had the experiences with River. These two...
You're talking the 1100-year
exactly.
Doctor and the 900-year Doctor. Yes.
Exactly. I think that was great to see. I love their flirting on both sides. I love Amy. Is this really the best time to be flirting? The different... it was, how violent River is and how he's a little uncomfortable with that, but at the same time kind of charged by it. We get Matt Smith in all his manic, crazy, he's 3 steps ahead of everyone else. And so sometimes what he's saying doesn't make any sense. Just the scene in the White House alone, is so good.
I have a couple of quotes from that, by the way.
Yeah. It is so good to see them in this role, and it brings back all these happy memories of us knowing more than the Doctor about River. And there is that scene, and I did write that down. I did not write too many quotes because I knew we would spend 5 hours just doing quotes. But when she talks about the day that she dreads. And we know what that day has already happened in our.
Don't worry, Jesse, I've
Yeah.
got the quote.
Yeah. Is just gives you a special moment. And I just love everything about River and the Doctor. And so I'm so happy.
All right. Christine, how about you? What are your thoughts on the Doctor and River and our young impossible astronaut?
Oh, with the Doctor and River, I totally on board with Jesse. The flirting, the casual flirting is my favorite. It's so smooth and comfortable. I could watch hours and hours of that. Nothing but that. It's just, and she is so totally his equal. And that's why they play so well together, off of each other like that. And also his equal in that while the Doctor hides things from his companions and lies to his companions, she does the same thing. She is in exactly the same position. She may know, and we don't know this at this point in the story, but
Right.
as we've seen, Let's Kill Hitler, I believe, she is no longer capable of regenerations. She is still at that level of Time Lord, like
she's fearless.
Yeah, and she instinctually knows the things that need to be done to protect the timeline, to protect time itself. And
well, to be fair, she was born with a time head.
Yes, a time head. I don't know what it is, but she could have had one.
Yeah. I mean, she was conceived inside the TARDIS, as we found out later. So, yeah. Spoilers.
Spoilers. On the subject of River, young River,
Yes.
as the Impossible Astronaut, this is something, rewatching this after, I don't know how long it's been since I watched it last, but I realized what an idiot I was. The whole story was such a total mystery to me, and watching it now, it's so glaringly obvious. All of the clues are there. I mean, they just immediately kick in with Amy's pregnant. Before they even say it, there's so many signs that she's pregnant.
Right.
And
she talks about having a queasy stomach and
she's not feeling well. And I'm like, but then they kind of cover that up later, because River says that sometimes an encounter with them makes you feel ill. And that happened after she saw one of them. So they'd throw that in there, and they really, the end of Day of the Moon, you get the talking about how she was pregnant and now she's not, and the scan going back.
The whole quantum nature of the pregnancy, because you see the Doctor's scanner flipping back and forth, going yes, no, yes, no, yes, no.
It's like Schrodinger's baby.
Yeah, exactly.
And
we won't know until we see whatever pops out. Yeah.
Right. And talking about it might have had a time head, and then immediately cutting from that entire conversation and the unclear scan to this the child regenerating. And I'm like, how did I not know what was going on? I'm a freaking idiot. It's right there. It's written all over the screen.
Well,
you just gotta wait. You have to wait to read it, because with the written word, the TARDIS takes time, but it's there to read.
I mean, it's kind of it's you can't beat yourself up for armchair quarterbacking this one, or looking back, because after we got all the answers, it's easy to go back and say, well, yeah, everything makes it's so obvious because you knew the answers. But as we were watching, we didn't know the answers, so it's not as obvious. Because I remember when I was watching that, especially that cliffhanger on Day of the Moon, where young River regenerates for the very first time, and going, what the actual F is going on here? And
who is this?
Yeah, like, okay, is this the Doctor's daughter? Because remember, this is this was after Jenny, so maybe is she Jenny? There was a lot of speculation about that. Just wondering what her deal was, and we didn't have those answers, so we're just got all these questions and a lot of hands in the air, shaking fists, going Moffat.
But I still feel like if these episodes had come out now, how long has it been? 10 years at least?
Well, these episodes, this is 2011. So
Okay, so 9 years.
We're going on 9 years, if you can believe it.
Yeah, and I just feel like the amount of
yes, you kind of glitched up there a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, the amount of TV I watch and the like the way I watch TV now, like if I'm watching it with someone, I'm just constantly like going, "Oh, this is going to happen. Oh, that they're this person or this." Like I predict so much as it's happening, and sometimes the person with me is like, "How do you know if you watched this already?" I'm like, "No, it came out while I was at work. We're just watching it now."
Yeah.
Like, how could I know that? Like, so I feel like if these episodes had come out now, it would be so glaringly obvious to me. But 9 years ago, I guess I just was casually watching. I wasn't intently watching for a storyline, which is really depressing.
Maybe now you know what to look for. So you kind of
look for. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just I feel like casually watching this season was doing a disservice to it. Like I really should have been watching it more intently because it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. This one generally pays off, although. One thing I was mentioning this to Christine earlier before we started recording. There's this cliffhanger at the end of Impossible Astronaut where the Doctor and Amy confront the Impossible Astronauts. And Amy, all of a sudden, Amy gets a hold of a gun. I think it was Canton's gun, and starts shooting at the Impossible Astronaut. And then, we cut to the credits. And then, so we expect
3 months later.
3 months later, I'm like, what? You didn't resolve the cliffhanger of the previous episode.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where this falls into the topics here.
Well, no, I just because it did feature the Impossible Astronaut. That's why I was. That's where I was going with it. But I'm like, so what happened when Amy shot the Impossible Astronaut? And there was no resolution from that apart from a cracked visor.
Yeah. And it doesn't really, they do flash back to immediately after that, but what's happening isn't really clear. Why are they all running? And my issue is like, we've jumped 3 months later. They're all separated. Somehow the Doctor's in prison. Right. Amy, Rory, River, they're all separated in different parts of the country. They've got tally marks all over the place. And Crowley is hunting them down. Yes, I said Crowley.
Yeah, I see what you said. I see what you did.
And we don't know. I've watched the episode several times, specifically trying to figure out, did they say something about this and I missed it? What were they running for? Why was Crowley pretending to hunt them down? Why was he pretending to shoot them? How did they fake their deaths? What was the point of all that? And the only thing I can come up with is we're trying to make dramatic tension for the second part of this episode for, everybody to go, ooh, get really excited. And there's really no reason for it. There's absolutely we have no, they weren't looking for anything. They weren't trying to gather information. They weren't trying to find someone. They were just.
Well, we kind of get the vibe that they were trying to learn more about the silence. Although they had, they're trying to hunt for something, they can't remember what they're hunting.
Yeah.
So they're just kind of wandering around the country, and Canton is hunting them and brings them back. And it's one of those Moffat things, and that's what frustrated me was that, well, why did you do the cliffhanger then? Why'd you bother with a cliffhanger if you're not going to even address it? You're just going to time jump 3 months ahead and then ignore it.
Yeah, and it's like, what? And like, if they,
as a writer, that drives me nuts.
And I'm like, okay, I know that the ending of the story had to time up with the moon landing.
Yeah.
So why did it not just start the story like a week before the moon landing instead of this pointless running around where, like, the only person who seems to have come up with a solution to anything during that time was the Doctor, who was tied up in a box.
Right. Yeah.
Or maybe the time was so that they had time to gather this ridiculous material nobody's ever heard of and build an entire box out of it. I don't know.
Yeah. What do you think, Jesse? What's your take on, like with the Doctor, just why he's just hanging out in a prison cell for 3 months, growing a beard and growing his hair out?
I think
Looking all
I'm right.
scraggly.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. In my mind, the kind of mental leap I took is that they had to do this for some reason for conspiracy because the silence might figure out what they're doing. So they're doing espionage so that the silence won't figure it out. It's flimsy. I think the reality is, won't it be really cool to start the episode with everyone in danger? And oh, by the way, since we are in America, let's use some great scenery shots of the dam and the desert and a tall story building.
To be fair, it kind of worked for me because I love that.
Oh yeah,
I love that cinematography in that.
Yeah.
I do too, and I think only when you peel it back and go, hey, wait a minute, why did you do this?
That's
Because
exactly.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
yeah, and I remember feeling, the greatness of River, jumping off. And everyone being concerned, right? And
you mean falling backwards off the building?
There's always a way, and
her
she's showing so
back.
And then the greatness of Matt. Oh, the doctor. Oh, she does that, and this is the first time I remember a reference to the TARDIS having a swimming pool.
Oh no, I think that was in the first episode of Matt Lewis or
Matt Smith.
Matt Smith. I'm awake. I just saw a tweet from Matt Lewis today, so it was really funny.
You're talking the 11th hour. Yeah.
Yeah. When he showed up, the Raggedy Doctor and his TARDIS was sideways.
Right, he did do that. Yes.
Yeah, and then it was mentioned before in the classic era too. But.
Yeah, and I knew that, but
it was
in the classic, but I could remember it in the modern. But the idea of telling Amy and Rory open all the doors to the pool, and then him timing it just perfectly for her to, land in the pool in a perfect dive.
The TARDIS always seems to show up exactly at the right moment when River's involved.
Well, the River knows how to drive her.
Yeah.
This is the Doctor, right? I also, a great scene is her doing everything behind him to make sure it works exactly right.
Oh God, yes.
I think it would be kind of funny if the TARDIS was just punking both River and the Doctor, and it's like the TARDIS is doing all the work. It's just making everybody think that they're piloting perfectly.
Yes.
I love the exchange in the Oval Office. The TARDIS can be invisible, but the screens won't work if it's invisible. He said the screens wouldn't work. Blessed.
Yeah. I love the banter between Alex Kingston and Matt Smith. They have such great chemistry. I know a lot of us, when Matt was cast, and the idea with him meeting River again, it felt a little creepy because he's so much younger, and it's younger than David Tennant, and but the chemistry is just rock solid. And even though they kind of make fun of it a little bit by having the 11th Doctor refer to River as Mrs. Robinson.
Yes,
which
I hate you.
Yes, no, you don't.
You don't.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty clever, but obviously, addressing the elephant in the room rather neatly.
Yes.
I thought, it's just a lot of fun. And obviously, we don't really get a lot of answers regarding the Impossible Astronaut in this episode, but once we know the story, we know how it plays out, we see Let's Kill Hitler and everything else, we kind of piece it together, and it's a very strong opening, I thought, for this concept, and essentially what Moffat telling in this season the origin of River Song.
Yeah, and also we know the payoff of the scene on the beach. We get that with the wedding of River Song.
Right.
So you get the enjoyment of watching that, knowing what's happening and knowing we see something they don't.
Right.
and the satisfaction of Moffat and the people writing with him. 80%, I'm going to guess, tie all the loose ends, nail the landing. I mean, I think when you pull back the strings, there could be, hey, why were they doing that and everything? But you get a feeling of, yes, the Doctor was shot. And yes, that Doctor body died, but it wasn't the Doctor. And because of everything we'd seen, I think they do a good job of setting you up and giving you a good explanation.
Yep. All right. Anything else about this topic before we move on?
I'm good.
Christine?
Just on the chemistry of Matt Smith and
Alex Kingston. Yeah.
Alex Kingston, they work together as well as I think David Tennant and Catherine Tate do, and I would like to see them do more projects together. I think they're brilliant.
They are. Yeah, I'm all for that. I would love to see that too. Too bad, too bad Alex Kingston wasn't on the Crown. When Matt Smith was on there, that would have been interesting, to say the least.
I would have to watch The Crown first.
Yeah, highly recommend it. If you get the chance, highly recommend it.
Yes, Matt Smith is very good as the young Philip.
It's on Netflix. All right, so let's move on. Topic number 2. Let's talk about Amy and Rory. Or is it Amy? And Madame Kavarian in this one, who's introduced, doing her little, I'm going to peek through this little window in the door, and then the mystery window vanishes. Amy's a little perplexed by that. So let's start with Christine this time. Christine, what are your thoughts on Amy and Rory and the woman watching Amy rather closely?
We don't get a lot of her just yet. I had to.
They tease Madame Kavarian a little bit.
Yeah, they tease her. It's just. I think it's just one shot of her during this when she's in the closed down orphanage, and it's nice.
Only reason I'm mentioning is because it sets off that little subplot in this story.
Very much tied to, is Amy pregnant? Is Amy not?
Right,
of course, we don't know that at this point.
Her quantum pregnancy, yes.
Yes, I do love all of the setup that's happening in these 2 episodes, and I think that was another part of the boy, I'm such an idiot, because there we are in a room with all this kid stuff, and there are pictures of Amy with a baby, and I'm like, so obvious. Pictures of Amy with a baby. This is the room that girl is in. In your face, that girl is Amy's daughter.
Right.
Over my head. Just raise your hand if you were totally blind to all of this too. Yeah.
See, everybody was.
Yeah.
I think we were just, trying to figure out. We're so confused by the time we got to that room scene, that we were just okay, our brains couldn't process that for whatever reason. We were just overwhelmed by everything.
Oh, well, repeated memory wipes will do that to a person. But, so, Amy and Rory.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite couple. What I really love is when they go back to really defining how the strength of this relationship, despite the fact that it seems like Amy should be more into the Doctor, even to Rory, he doesn't understand. Every time he even has an inkling that she might fancy the Doctor more than him, he gets all, he starts to retreat into himself, and she just keeps calling him an idiot for doing that, because it's always him. When we talked about A Good Man Goes to War, that the opening monologue that she does, it starts off sounding like she's talking about the Doctor, but before she was even close to revealing that she was talking about the baby's father, I knew she was talking about Rory, because I knew that's who she loves the most and who she believes in the most. And these episodes come back to that. She gets taken from that room, and her little hand device recorder gets left behind, and it's like an open frequency to her, and he can hear her. And I'm going to jump ahead to one of my quotes. I don't care.
Go for it.
Yeah, because he's telling her that they're coming for her, that not to be afraid. And the doctor's like, she can't hear you. It's one way. And he looks at him like appalled at what he said. She can always hear me, doctor. Always. Wherever she is. And she always knows that I'm coming for her. Do you understand me? Always. And it's that devotion. I love it.
Well, this is that, also got to keep in perspective. This is the 2,000-year-old Rory, the one that waited for her for 2,000 years as a Auton Roman. And so he has all those memories.
Oh, yeah.
And even talks about that a little bit, that the doctor asked him, like, well, do you remember everything?
No.
And he goes, well, it kind of comes and goes. Yeah.
No, I always remember.
Yeah, exactly. So, but
yeah, I love that scene.
But he's so devoted to her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's like, if you could describe Rory in one word, it would be devotion.
He's devoted to her, but at the same time, he's insecure.
Yeah.
Of his relationship.
It's so weird.
Yeah. You think after 2,000 years, you think he would have settled down by that, but.
People never change.
Yeah.
They never really change.
I mean, granted, Amy doesn't really sometimes give him a chance to kind of feel a little comfortable. Because of the way she is.
The funny thing about a lot of relationships out there, a lot of people think that a relationship has to be between two equals and like both of them are in charge of the relationship. But there's a lot of relationships that work when someone's on top, when someone's in charge, because there are personalities out there that don't do well being in charge, and they need someone who will take charge for them, but
the alpha
keep them safe. Yeah, but keep them safe in that relationship, in that hierarchy. And I think Amy and Rory is an excellent example of that. He's a fairly decent person. He's a strong person, but he's not a leader type. He just isn't. And he will take his lead from Amy, and that is where he's happy. So it makes it all right.
Yeah, Amy is definitely the alpha in the relationship. I think it's safe to say. With Rory as the beta.
Yeah, and the doctor talks about that, right? Like, hello, Pond.
Mr. Pond.
And, Mr. Pond. He goes, no, it's not. And then he goes, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I think it's great because it is true.
All right, Jesse. What about you? What were your thoughts on Rory and Amy in this episode?
Love seeing them together. I've already talked about how much I really appreciated how much Amy loves Rory, and we see that, and we see she should. He has been. He's the boy who waited. If there was a girl who waited,
right?
It was the boy who waited, and he is, and I like how they touch about that later, where Mel's talks about, well, of course, because you've always had Rory, and he's like, huh? What? No, he's just Rory. Isn't he gay? So, I just love this relationship. I love seeing them again. It makes me happy. I was always someone who liked having the married couple in the TARDIS and that relationship. And how funny she is, and how much she gives the doctor crap, and how stable he is, and how he's kind of, I'm a nurse, I understand these things, and how too many of them, they appreciate him, but they take him for granted at the same way. And he's also always a little step behind Rory, but also is in a lot of ways one of the most noblest and best of the people that are in the TARDIS. His ability to heal and being a nurse. I just think they're complicated and fun characters, and it was great to get back in the TARDIS and travel with them.
Well said. All right.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear. Yes. Rubber. Yeah. I love the fact that we got to see Amy and Rory starting their kind of domestic life. at the beginning of the story in the Impossible Astronaut. They're at home, they're hanging out, and apparently they're just catching up on the Doctor's exploits by reading history books, which I thought was kind of funny. And then like Rory, they're watching this Laurel and Hardy movie. It's called
Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah,
I thought it was Three Stooges.
No. It's Laurel and Hardy. It's called the Flying Deuces, and because apparently this is one of the two Laurel and Hardy movies that was it's in the public domain, so they're able to use it. So and then next thing you know, you see Matt Smith's Doctor, the 11th Doctor, showing up with Laurel and Hardy. And of course, wearing his fez.
Yes, I was actually unclear as to whether or not they had seen him in there, or if they just kept looking away when he was there.
I think they looked away at the wrong moment, but we saw him though.
I mean, it wasn't the first time they'd watched it because she said, "Are you watching this again?"
Yeah. So
I explained the jokes.
So you think they would have noticed him, but if they were watching closely, but maybe they were a little distracted, being honeymooners and all, but newlyweds. So, and then they get their envelopes, and then and it kind of shows their devotion, even after this time apart from the Doctor. As soon as they get those envelopes, they're off to the United States. They go, all the way into the desert in Utah.
Of all the places, why there?
Right, exactly. Yeah, but apparently that's it's the way it was supposed to be planned out. So keep in mind that that this was the 1100-year Doctor doing this planning, and so maybe he knew that at that point in time the 900-year Doctor was going to be there. So he thought that would be a great place to meet up. I don't know, but he sent No. He sent. Yeah, it's kind of a bootstrap paradox a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And it's also called Lake Silencio,
right?
Which and I'm like.
Yeah.
Why is it called that?
Because Lake of the Silence. But yeah. But anyway, so just it shows their devotion, to the Doctor. That after all this time, they're still like, okay, the Doctor needs us. Let's go to America. Okay, we're off on another adventure, and I like that about them. The only thing, later on though, we get we were talking about this a little bit that. The switch of Amy takes place.
Well,
because
actually,
Amy tries to go tell the Doctor, "Hey, I'm pregnant. This is important. I'm pregnant." Mm-hmm. And I'm sure the Doctor is got all this calculus symbols above his head, trying to figure out pregnant. Still because he's still trying to. He's still rubbish with girls in this incarnation.
Yes.
And
but okay, I've got to stop you there, Charles.
Okay. Yes.
We catch him underneath the woman's skirt. See, I think that was a little inconsistency.
Well,
there.
Maybe he's a gentleman and didn't look.
Okay.
I think he was just posing nude.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's, of course, the husband at the time would be.
He said it wasn't just like Charles II thought.
Yes.
So
good enough. I'll buy it.
Okay, because remember, this Doctor is a very childlike at times. He's childlike, but he has that that weariness of time, of being someone who's lived 1,000 years. So he's an interesting contradiction in that term, I think. And just so we get the switch with Amy.
Now, I'm unclear about when this happens because later on, I think during the Flesh episodes,
yes,
he actually says sometime before America.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it wasn't in that 3-month period where they were all separated, that it was actually before the beginning of the episode even started.
Yeah, it's a. I have to keep in mind that that writer wasn't Stephen Moffat, who wrote the Rebel Flesh. But Moffat should have paid attention to it.
Then again, the Doctor could just be speculating.
Yeah, that's true.
He has no real way of knowing for sure.
Yeah. See, the way I see it is that it kind of takes place when Amy was kidnapped by the Silence, and I think that the Amy that they rescue was the switch.
I wouldn't say that because she sees Madame Kavarian before she gets taken.
Okay.
Because she got taken from the orphanage, and she saw her in the orphanage. So the switch would have happened, I think, when they were all split up, because they were in very different parts of the United States.
So that would have been another great opportunity.
It would have been a good opportunity, and I
Yeah.
think that's when it happened, because you get she's having pregnancy, like morning sickness, and just like uncomfortable feelings, and she thinks she's pregnant. And then next episode, jump 3 months ahead, she no longer thinks she's pregnant. She was wrong, and now she sees this woman in this sliding hatch.
Yeah,
So
I think that makes sense. I think that's a valid theory.
I like that theory.
Yeah. I mean, she's off on her own.
Oh my God. Something just occurred to me. Maybe the
Yes.
only reason for a 3-month jump is so that we can get her deeper into the pregnancy for the length of the show.
Maybe.
So that
could be.
Maybe. Guess could be.
With all the timey-wimey stuff, who can keep track of how much time has passed? Who cares?
Apparently Stephen Moffat does. So,
Yeah.
All right. Anything else about Amy and Rory before we move on?
I'm good.
All right. I'm hearing. All right. I get a big heart sign from Christine there. All right. Topic number 3. Let's talk about Old Canton Everett Delaware III, because there's 3 of them, right? As the doctor pointed out.
How many people can have a name like that?
Well, 3, obviously, apparently. And then Young Canton, a.k.a. Crowley, a.k.a. Willoughby Kipling.
Yes.
And then let's throw in Richard Nixon, too, in case we want to talk about Nixon a little bit. Because he's kind of has a couple of fun scenes with the 11th Doctor that we might as well talk about here. All right, so Jesse, back to you. Let's. What are your thoughts on the Cantons and maybe Richard Nixon if you're feeling generous to Tricky Dick?
I really Mark Sheppard is amazing.
Well, that wraps up our show, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, exactly. Don't forget, he was manservant Neville in The Middleman as well. A show that
listening shows that I've never seen it.
I've never seen it.
Tons of stuff.
Jesse sent me The Middleman, and I haven't watched it, so I
know.
I feel bad.
I still
have it. I still have it.
Yes.
Leverage is. He's been in everything.
He has been everything. And in fact, was it Maureen Ryan, the Chicago-based TV critic, that said that it was that the House of Representatives had passed a bill that required him to guest star in any genre TV series. It was mandated by federal law, and which I loved so much. I have shared this before, and I'm going to share it again. In Dragon Con, I'm walking among the hallway, one of the big kind of lobbies that's in there, and a guy is sitting there talking to someone dressed in a Stargate uniform why she should watch Doctor Who, and I realize it's Mark Sheppard, and he is explaining the beauty of the show. And there was only 3 or 4 people standing around him. I start listening to him, and he says, and you don't have to go back. You can start just with this doctor. The 11th hour is a perfect place to stop. He says, I'm not just saying that because I'm in the show now. It's amazing. And I said, and you got to say both lines. He goes, yes, I did. They gave me both lines.
Both lines.
Bigger on the inside and Doctor
Who. Yes.
And so all of a sudden now then he and I are tag teaming this poor lady that's just here to talk about Stargate. And she ended up convincing, and fast forward this last year at Dragon Con, there is no line. I go to him and I go, you are one of my favorite members of Dragon Con. And he goes, one of? And with just the right amount of arrogance, I tell the story, and he immediately talked about, that was a great time. You know what was all going on? He is a wonderful actor. He plays an amazing character. We are playing in the 60s, a gay FBI agent who is in love with someone who is African American. It just, there is everything you love about this character. I want him to come back so much
That would be fun. That would be fun.
But unfortunately, I think they put a kibosh on that just with the writing of this episode. I feel like didn't the doctor say that I'll see you one more time? Or no, I won't see you again, but you'll see me once more. Something like that.
Maybe.
I don't remember.
Which is just wrong of him. How could he possibly?
She just watched this story 3 times in a week. I'm going to go with Christine on this one.
Well, I think he says that. He says that to to River, Amy, and Rory. I won't see you again, but you will certainly see me again. So I think that leaves open that we could have him come back and see the doctor. But yeah, I just love everything about it, and Crowley makes everything better.
I kept waiting for him to say hello, boys.
I'm taking Crowley, this catchphrase, right?
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Call this one squirrel.
Okay. Well, all right. So yeah, I got to know him. Christine, let's get your thoughts on old Canton and young Canton before I start ranting and doing my thing.
He had some great lines. He was like the guy with the perfect wisdom in this episode. He had a lot of great lines. I think I got several of them in there. Just he seemed to really have one over on the president for some reason, because the president called him in special. You've got some quotes written down?
Just a couple quotes.
Yeah, just like maybe we should compare before we go through them.
We'll find out. All right. Or everybody just, kind of pick your favorites, and then we'll go with that.
And, he tends to go with things so easily. Even like my entire world has been altered. He needs a little time to process, gets a little help from Rory to get through it, and he's back on board. That's my man.
Yeah, I love the fact that Rory was tasked with that because, hey, he's the newest.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm always stuck. Why do I have to do that? And I did love
like he's the freshman. He gets to do this.
Yeah, exactly. And I do love he's the rookie that has to pay the bar tab, like the meal, like they always haze rookies in the NFL. And I also did love that and this might be one of y'all's things where, okay, this is a ship. It can travel in space. It can travel in time. How long have you guys had this? How long
has Scotland Yard had this?
Yes, that was great.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, it's so great to, with Canton. Yeah, I would love to see more adventures with, Mark Sheppard's Canton. I think he's a great character.
I'm sure Mark Sheppard would love that too.
Yeah, so I'll write it. I'll be glad to write it. I'd be happy to.
You keep saying that. You know what I always say to my car radio whenever I hear you say that? Just write it. Just write it and send it in like old style classic Who. That's what they used to do, right?
Yeah, and end up on a slush pile or what? Because they can't. They actually legally they can't, because that way, because that opens themselves up to lawsuits. So they can't look at it. If it's
look at it,
they can't even look at it because they would be sued. They could be sued for, like, if it just so happens if they wrote an idea on their own, and somebody sent it in, and they looked at it, they could be accused of stealing the idea. And a lot of companies like DC Comics, Marvel Comics, they can't do that either for those same reasons. So submitting anything cold like that, it has to be solicited by them.
Yeah, Brian Kopelman,
something I learned the hard way.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah. Brian Kopelman, who's very active on Twitter, showrunner of Billions, wrote Rounders, been just a very active TV writer. Just tweeted that, I've got extra time now that this things are in hiatus, and someone said, "Well, how about talk to a struggling screenwriter to cheer him up?" And Brian tweeted saying, I will be glad to give you a call. If you start pitching me ideas, I will immediately hang up. But to listen to you, give you a few words of advice, I will be glad to do.
Yeah. Yeah, they can't, because they're just, they're afraid of getting sued. That's what it boils down to. I love the fact that Mark Sheppard's father got to be in this with his son playing the older Canton. I thought that was very cool.
I agree.
And I have to think that Mark, this story probably has some special meaning because he got to work with his dad in this story. And then I love the 11th Doctor with Richard Nixon. I'll just talk about that really quickly. Especially the final scene where Nixon's asking the Doctor about, will I be remembered? Yeah, and it's like, oh, yes. And I have the quote. But I'm sure Christine has it right there, so she could probably go to it.
Oh, not that one. No.
Oh, not that one. Tricky Dicky.
Tricky Dicky.
Yes. The Doctor warns him to watch out for David Frost, so I thought that was rather funny. All right.
Yes, very good.
Okay. Anything else about these characters before we move on?
Oh yeah. One of my favorite scenes was kind of the opening with young Crowley and Nixon in the Oval Office, and the Doctor stealth drops his box in the room and sneaks in, realizes where he is, and at first he's like, "Oh crap!" and then he starts hearing what they're talking about, and just all the caution's gone. And he pulls out a little notepad, starts taking notes, and Nixon turns around and notices him and stops talking. And then Crowley turns around and notices him. and
I like the Doctor when he waves him. He's just like, going with what you're doing.
Sees that they've noticed him. And he just waves his hand like, go on.
Yeah, I love that.
I'd say that's a quote, but there's absolutely nothing being said. It's just so beautiful. I almost missed it in my quick rewatch today, and I was like, no, I have to rewind. I have to watch that. It's like some great physical acting there.
Yes,
it's beautiful.
Matt Smith has really great comedic timing, doesn't he?
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
He really does, which made it even that more impressive. Once again, and we talked the Crown twice in this episode and their betting line. It is such a dramatic role. He plays the young Prince Philip. He's amazing in The Crown in that role. He is as likable as Matt Smith is. It is really easy to dislike him. He's got a lot of chops, and it's really cool that we got him as the Doctor the way we did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just shows his acting range.
Acting. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. Let's talk about topic number 4. The silence. Silence must fall. So, let's talk about our favorite really tall guys with bulbous heads and kind of men in black suits that kind of hang out on the ceiling like bats in a kind of way. Christine, what are your thoughts on the silence?
Who?
Yeah, those guys. No, not the Who. Not Roger Daltrey, not Pete Townsend, but yeah. Now let's talk about the silence.
Oh, like I said earlier, my favorite type of horror story is the one that plays with
Here, maybe
horror.
this will remind you.
Oh my God, that's creepy! Ah. You have all of the action figures.
No, I don't have them all, but I got a lot. So Nick is very jealous, by the way, of my collection.
I bet. Yeah,
he's such a geek. He's such a geek.
I bet DJ Nick has a better music collection.
I bet he does. I bet he does too. Yeah.
Good point. Very good point.
Exactly.
So, yes. So, horror stories I like more are the ones where the more psychological thrillers. You can't see the monster. You can't understand the monster, or so the monster is sort of within you, And this one was a whole new spin on it. I don't think I've seen anything else where you can't remember the monster, which is a whole new level of terrifying. And even when you do get to see them, they're close to human looking, at least in body. They're mixed with the Men in Black suit, the alien grays, and even a bit of the Scream painting, especially when they start opening their mouth, which wasn't there a second ago. And then
now you know what I was talking about with that, because
yes,
when they're all like, yeah, like I'm going to eat you whole,
and then that whole they absolutely don't normally have a mouth because they clearly communicate telepathically because they talk to you and their lip, there's nothing moving.
Yeah,
and just the way they do the audio for their voices, it just implies that
like it's inside your head.
Yes, it's inside your head. And you wonder if anybody if they were speaking loud enough, if anybody outside the room could even hear them, or if it's just, you can hear me because I want you to. And again, there's this level of telepathy involved because he kills this woman in the bathroom and says that her name was Joy and you're Amelia Pond. And, so they get in your head and they know everything about you, which is even worse because knowledge is power. So you've got this villain you can't even remember you're supposed to fight, and they know everything about you.
Yeah, it's almost like they're like the ultimate voyeurs, because they can just watch you, and as long as you're not looking right at them, you don't notice. You completely forget that they're there, which is horrific. I mean, the way I kind of see it, it's almost like if you're at all familiar with the Christopher Nolan movie Memento.
Oh yes.
And so essentially, it's like, I think Moffat got the idea. He watched Memento one day and is like, I've got an idea for a Doctor Who villain, and I think it was probably born from that. But
it probably was. That's nice.
Any listeners who haven't watched that movie, it's an excellent movie.
Guy Pearce, yeah.
I got a poster for Christmas that's 100 movies bucket list. It's like this giant scratch off thing.
Yeah.
Memento is on there. Like it's 100 movies they think everybody should watch, and Memento is on there. So definitely worth watching. And please don't get the idea that you want to watch it in the correct chronological order, because it honestly would not be that interesting.
No. So again, it's right up Stephen Moffat's alley. So
exactly.
Absolutely.
So Jesse, what do you? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh,
Christine.
That's all right. So something that confuses me a bit about the silence. We know watching through the rest of the season that they exist simply because they want to silence the Doctor, so he won't ask the first question, or not. Well, so you won't get the answer to the first question, because people ask the first question all the time. It's on it's on the it's a plane. It's obvious. It's all everywhere, and I'm like, yeah, it's like on this DVD set that I'm holding in my hand now. Of course, so people ask it all the time. They want to stop the answer, which is not 42, and yeah, I know.
I had to do this because I'm a Douglas Adams fan. So what?
Well, it's not the answer to this question, okay?
Okay, different question. Yes,
but in these episodes, they establish that the silence have been in America and God knows where else on the planet for ever. It's almost like the dawn of time. They've been here manipulating things. Like, really? Did they need to play that long of a con on the Doctor here?
Right. It's like maybe you could have like jumped ahead a little bit. Like.
I don't know. And apparently they don't bother having technology of their own. They'll just manipulate the technology into existence.
Yeah, like they refer to them as parasites in this one, if I remember correctly. So, all right. Jesse, what about you? What are your thoughts on the silence?
So this is where, and I don't need it explained to me. I'm just...
yes, you do. No.
I love the villain. I think they're creepy. They visually are creepy. The whole premise. Several years ago, when I was still working for RealPage, it was going to be Silence Day. I don't remember what date, but in social media there was a lot of talk about.
Is it April 22nd?
Yeah, it must be, right? Where
Charles knows.
Yeah,
Right.
you're supposed to put your hash marks on your hand, right?
Yeah.
Or your body. And I was meeting with a new actual one of the executives at the company that had taken over because we had lost our VP, and for a short time I was reporting directly to her. And so I wore a long sleeve shirt and put marks and then put my shirt down because, heaven forbid I just not do it, right?
Right.
And it turned out she is the one that has said, and I repeat this many times, Jesse, do we really need 2 Spider-Man franchises in our lifetime? That's how long it was. I'm like, Ashley, I had never thought about that, and I did not think it would come up in this business meeting.
I see you guys were working really, really hard that day.
Yes, and when I emailed her recently, and when I re-emailed her recently just to catch up again when I was refreshing everything, I said, and oh, by the way, who would have thought we would have 3 Spider-Man franchises in our lifetime? And she replied back, yes, but I will say I've liked this third one more than I did the second one. So anyway, Ashley would have been proud. I love the villain. I still feel like we didn't get a real payoff on the first question, and the silence will fall, but that's okay. I love the journey enough that I'm okay. I didn't understand what they really did.
Okay.
It's April 23rd, by the way. The Doctor's death is supposedly the 22nd, and the silence shows up the next day.
All right, very nice. I'll remember that.
All right, points to Christine for looking that up.
Absolutely.
For my awesome Google skills.
Nice. I'm going to give points for that. All right.
Absolutely.
All right. I dig the silence. I think they're cool as hell. Just these big lumbering figures that, they move in this really creepy way, and the idea that, you can't remember them, like I said, just makes them the ultimate voyeurs. And it's the idea that you have this monster that, you don't even remember. You have to actually work really hard just to figure out who you're actually fighting against. Is definitely a unique and novel idea when it comes to science fiction villains. And kudos to Moffat for using that concept, because I think it's a brilliant concept.
They also click,
Go ahead.
weird, like I want to say, Velociraptor clicking.
Almost like a beetle, beetle sound, that something that.
And the whole of not remembering, we're like, how great is it in the TARDIS when they're talking to young Crowley, right? Yeah. And look at your palm. They just explained about they had the recording, and all of a sudden he's looking at his hand, and it's recording. And what a creepy payoff that they're there all the time. Yeah. And we later find out, of course, like why they have the patch over their eye, because at the time we just think it looks creepy, but they paid that off.
Yeah, they get full marks for creepiness on these guys.
Now, the only thing that puzzled me about not the silence themselves, but the people like the Doctor and his companions, River and whatnot, trying to remember how to that they were there by using the hash marks, is why put hash marks on your face?
Thank you.
That you can only see if you're looking in a mirror. How is that supposed to remind you?
Oh, I've asked this question a lot of times, and people try to rationalize it in the stupidest way. Like, well, they ran out of space on their arms. I'm like, no, they didn't.
No, they didn't. There's still they only
arms.
wrote on the top, like the forearm part, and the top of and it's like there's still plenty of space.
I'm sorry. I could probably get 100 tally marks on one arm alone, and that's just below the elbow. What are we talking about?
They didn't even write on their hands, the palm of their hands. No. And I'm thinking, why are you drawing on your face? Like, You know, just I
Do
just want.
you think you'll remember it more if you feel it etching in or something? Like,
I don't know.
I,
Like you're tracing a tear from your eye. I don't know what's going on there.
how do you always happen to have a grease pencil on you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Like is I don't know, just one of the things that kind of bugs me a little bit. But
I mean, what really got me was River in that like evening gown, and she still happens to have one of those on her to draw on herself. I'm
yeah,
like, where are you keeping that?
yeah. Well, lady will never tell.
Okay, that sounds like something she'd say.
Yeah, exactly.
Or actually, she'd probably say, "You wish." Yeah,
Or
you wish you know.
spoilers.
Oh,
But anyway, so yeah, just like Jesse said, that, and I mentioned this with Christine, that a lot of the, with the silence in the Church of the Papal Mainframe, that gets a little wonky. And just when you try to, you have to kind of sit and map this out. I mean, maybe it's all in Stephen Moffat's head, and that's cool. But when you're trying to project that to viewers and have them like go, okay, I can get that, and I appreciate that he's trying to raise the ambition level. I respect that, but some of that I think he tried to make it so convoluted that I think he kind of lost himself a couple times.
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair.
Like he was he was trying to be a little bit too clever, and he kind of like forgot a couple things here and there along the way.
And
but let's not forget, none of that was in these episodes.
No. You're right. All right. Anything else about this story that we missed? We talked a lot about it. So.
We didn't really talk anything about NASA in this. The moon landing. This is like a huge part of this.
All right, and we could talk about space, 1969.
Yes. I love the end conversation, the end game. We got you bit about using the footage of the moon landing and editing that in.
Into Neil Armstrong's, one
Neil
small
Armstrong's
step for man.
Foot.
Yes, exactly.
And he talks about how for hundreds, thousands of years, people will watch that footage, and I'm like, it made me think. I don't think I've ever actually watched it myself. Like, I mean, it got it in stuff, but is it really like the original footage that they're using? I don't know. Did they use the original footage in this? And I didn't really watch. You don't get the whole clip in there. They like to cut to the people watching the clip a lot.
Right.
And but I will point out one thing. So here's Crowley using a video phone, whatever a video phone is, and it's one of those really cheap ones. Like, oh my God, I can't believe you bothered putting a camera on this phone. And you can see what the image is that he's recording. And then you see the image that the doctor gets. And I'm like, no. Because you get the crappiest quality video ever. And suddenly he's got like HD, high res.
Right.
I'm like, no.
Well,
no.
The doctor uses a sonic, so he sonicked it.
I
don't know.
It.
That's it.
He basically waved his magic wand.
Made his magic wand, exactly.
He waved his plot device.
Exactly. But I just want to know how Canton was this like totally dialed in on how to use a camera phone.
Well,
and not even a standard camera phone. It was like something the doctor cooked up. So, unless he took the time to show him how to do it.
He's a very intelligent man and forward-thinking, obviously. So he did just a 5-10 minute lesson. That's basically a hit record. You hit stop. You hit send.
All right. Okay. I'm always partial to the space. I love the space setting because. Hey, I'm like all of a month old when the moon landing happened. So that's what I was doing while the silence was on Earth and the doctor was on Earth. And so, that's my claim to fame right there, right?
Sure.
Yeah, whatever. But I just love the setting. So I just really identified with this story.
Yeah, Charles, you can imagine, I was born in 1959. So it's a 10-year-old Jesse who's obsessed with everything NASA.
Yeah.
From from having, toy spaceships to, putting together models of the lunar module and the Apollo capsule and the command module. We spent days this past summer with all the different, anniversary specials that we're watching. So, this is a great time with me. And very cool time period, a iconic time period. And so, I really well done. If you're going to go to America the way they did, a great storyline to have and to have those scenes.
Yep, I think so. All right. Anything else about this story? Because we got a lot of quotes to talk about, I'm sure.
Yes, we do.
And Christine would just go bust if she doesn't get at least a
Yes.
couple in there. So
Yes.
we can't have that. So
You know me. I love my quotes.
I know you do. That's why I want to indulge you. All right. All right. So let's get into our favorite quotes. All right.
Okay.
So how about this? We'll do 5 each. So pick your best 5 because that's 15 right there.
So I'm gonna
For the sake of time, I get it, but
I'm gonna just go. She's already said she has Rivers talking about what she's scared about.
Mhm.
So I'm just gonna give one
Okay.
because I feel like it's very timely.
All right.
When President Nixon says, "You were my second choice for this, Mr. Delaware." And Canton, Delaware, just without missing a blink, "That's okay. You are my second choice for president, Mr. Nixon."
Nice.
I thought so appropriate in today's environment.
Oh, yeah.
I knew, if nothing else, I had to get that quote in.
Look at Jesse getting political on the
I am
podcast.
about to you two. You guys can share.
All right.
I had that one.
All right. Christine, all right. I have one quote that I really want to do, but I'm going to let you go with your 5 and see.
Oh, no.
No.
If you really want to do it, because I probably have it, you take it.
Okay. All right. The doctor sitting down at Nixon's desk going, "I'm going to need a SWAT team ready to mobilize, street level maps covering all of Florida, a pot of coffee, 12 jammy Dodgers, and a fez."
And a fez.
I love that quote.
Yes.
All right. And just, Matt delivered
And they
that
never got
so
him his
brilliantly.
fez.
Yeah, he's like, where's my fez?
I didn't see
To add the
coffee.
pot of coffee,
Yeah.
because you don't see the doctor usually drinking coffee.
No.
Also, yes, good.
They don't drink tea in America. They drink coffee,
Well, maybe
Although
maybe it
and
was
then
for,
he asked for jammy Dodgers. I
Yeah,
mean, that's not
yeah.
really American either.
well, maybe he just likes to dunk it. Dunk the jammy Dodgers in the coffee. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to do there's a bit of an exchange between River and Rory,
Okay.
and I am not going to say who says what because that would just really bog it down.
Okay.
It's like, it's locked. Why do people always lock things? What's through there? No idea. Something bad? Almost definitely. You're going to open it, aren't you? Well, it's locked. How's a girl supposed to resist? Is this sensible? God, I hope not.
Yes, nice.
Very nice. Kudos on the accents too.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Any others? Well, I could go. I could
just want me to keep going.
No,
Oh my
I mean
God.
I could do another one. All right. So
It'll
okay.
help me choose which ones to do.
Let's see here. Let me pick mine. Oh yeah, I got to do this one. "I'm being extremely clever up here, and there's no one standing around looking impressed. What's the point in having you all?" The 11th
That
Doctor.
is
You
how
said that
often.
in another episode.
I was going to say, how often, Charles, do we not, when we're talking
Yes.
about the companions and the doctor, quote that line?
Exactly. So there you go. We finally got to officially quote that line in the proper context. All right.
Oh.
All right, Christine, go ahead.
Oh, I've got like 3 serious quotes, and the rest are
Just-
silly.
Just cover your eyes and go like point to one.
Well, I'm not going to touch my screen.
Oh,
All
all right.
right. Let's see.
Use soap and water, but okay, be sanitary.
All right.
You don't know where that screen's been.
I wish I could say I do, but
See?
all right. So, Amy, he's interacted with his own past. He's interacted with his own past. Oh wait, no, hold on. This is River. Sorry.
Okay.
I really should have written this down. My bad, everybody.
That's all right.
He's interacted with his own past. It could rip a hole in the universe. Amy, except he's done it before. Rory, and in fairness, the universe did blow up.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. I've got this one exchange between the Doctor and River, where River's about to climb into a manhole, and the Doctor says, "Shout if you get into trouble." And River replies, "Don't worry, I'm quite the screamer." Now there's a spoiler for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, River, will you never change? So
I need to slow down on my quotes here, and I just
Okay.
chose not to write that one down. All right, now for something serious.
all right.
At Jesse's request.
Yes.
A day is coming when I'll look into that man's eyes, my doctor, and he won't have the faintest idea who I am. And I think it's going to kill me.
That's a really great quote. I love that.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
the whole tragedy of their romance. We've never really gotten a good explanation about why they're on opposite timelines. It just happened that way, I guess.
Yeah, I think
Because
it's
they're
just
both time
coincidence.
travelers, so it's not like they're intentionally trying to miss each other or go, on
Yeah.
opposite ends, but it just works out that way, I guess.
And honestly, I think there was one meeting that kind of goes outside of that, and that was with Capaldi. It was their last real meeting before the first time that we see River.
Yeah.
It was he takes her to that place that has time is stopped or something like that.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
that-
it is. They established it very in the original. Her first appearance is she talks about the last time she saw the Doctor, right?
Mhm.
And so the Tennant Doctor knew that, and so did Matt Smith, and so did Capaldi. So I think that's really because you had a new suit, and this is when you gave me the screwdriver, and then they established that a night is their days or so many years long, right? So they spend plenty of time together.
Yeah, 24 years, I believe.
Yeah, which always, and I always bring this up, is when she says "my doctor," we always assume Matt Smith, but is there even a chance it's because she spent 24 years with Capaldi that when she's talking about "my doctor," she could be talking about him?
She could.
Mm.
That's a good point. That's a great point,
Yeah.
actually. All right. Whose
I
turn
got
is
two more. Can I do two more?
Go ahead. Go two more.
I'm going to do one silly and then wrap it up with one serious.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. So, Crowley.
Canton.
Yeah, I won't call him that. Mr. President, that man walked in here with a big blue box and 3 of his friends, and that's the man he walked past. One of them's worth listening to.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I really like
I
that.
guess that wasn't so silly, but that was the fun one.
Yeah.
And
And
then-
go ahead.
Last one. The doctor. Swear to me on something that matters. Amy. Fish fingers and custard. Oh,
Yeah.
I love fish fingers and
Yes.
custard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, 'cause if you remember when I was talking about my favorite doctors, and
Yeah.
at the time it was the tie between Tennant and Smith. It took me a little time to get used to Tennant, and now I really love him. But with Smith, he had me at fish fingers and custard.
Right.
Yeah.
I think he did a lot of people with that. Yeah.
Yes, I did too.
Yeah, because the 11th hour, I mean, he had a lot to prove in that one, and he nailed it. He nailed it.
And as we go along,
Yeah,
and-
I know we gotta wrap this
Yep.
up.
No, but I'm going to go even further. I think when you talk about music, people, I believe the record company were hoping that Michael Jackson's follow-up to Off the Wall would do half as good as Off the Wall did. They were like, let's hope this Thriller CD album, can just not embarrass itself. And then, of course, Thriller became even more crazy. I think the same thing. BBC is like, man, if Matt Smith can just hold on to anything that David Tennant have, we're just going to be so grateful. And I'm not saying one's a better Doctor than the other, but during the Matt Smith era, the popularity of the Doctor did explode, and it became, so he took it to heights that they could not even imagine he would done.
Yep. All right.
You just said you wouldn't say which one is better than the other, and I think that's my issue. I can't say which one's better than the other.
Tennant is my Doctor, but watching this, I go, I love Matt Smith. I just love him.
Mm-hmm.
The great thing about Doctor Who is you don't have to like only one Doctor.
That is true, Charles.
I like them all for different reasons.
Absolutely.
Some I like more than others, but I still like them all. And you don't have to just choose one. You can take from every bit of the chocolate box if you want. It's up to you.
To throw back
Yes.
Lay's potato chips.
Yeah.
You don't have to eat just one. You don't have to just like one, right?
Well, that sounds a bit cannibalistic. I'm not going to go.
Okay.
So,
Ew.
That's all right.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. All right. Ratings. Christine, let's go with you first. What's your rating for this one?
Well,
and this can be on the Christine scale if you wish.
Oh, no. This is your show. I'm going to go on I just want to clarify. So you
Okay.
are going with, you're basically doing the school grading
Yes.
system
Yes.
translated into a scale of 1 to 10.
Yes.
So, when rating, it really comes, what you're really trying to say about an episode is that it's either excellent, okay, or bad.
Right.
And breaking it down into numbers is just about nuance at that point. So, what you guys
I'm all
done
about
is,
the nuance.
so what you guys have done is you've given excellent 8 to 10.
Yeah.
Okay gets 6 to 7. And then you've given yourself 5 degrees of this sucks.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying
That's
that doesn't
perfect.
sound like a very positive rating system to me. I just you really if you really hate an episode, you want to say how much. You want to really get into the details on it.
Well, there's like the 10% F, there's the 20% F, there's the 30% F, there's the 40% F, there's a 50% F.
I'm just saying that grades, they're
Yeah.
totally on a different scale because we really want people to have at least a minimum amount of education. Whereas
I was waiting for this, by the way.
Yes.
But I will work on
I am
your
not
ratings.
disappointed.
I am not either. I am loving this.
All right. So
I will work with your rating system. I just wanted
you
everybody.
can do whatever rating you want. We're open.
That's
we're
right.
cool. We're flexible.
All right.
Now-
So,
Whatever you want to do it. However you
Before
want to do
you
it.
say your grade, Christine,
Yes.
point of clarification to the ruler of all things Whovian in my world. Are we doing separate ratings for each episode or just one
Just
rating
one for
both?
the whole story.
Got it.
it's not a complete story without both halves.
Yeah, exactly. Part 1,
All
part
right.
2. Exactly.
All right. So, I love the episode and just have that continuity ding on why 3 months jump. What were they doing that time? Unclear. Poor writing on that part, but it's really not a big chunk of it, and I understand why they did it, and, from a storytelling perspective. So I'm going to give this a 9.5. Sorry, what were we saying?
Nice. Excellent. I see what
That
you did there.
may be the greatest rating ever in 170 episodes of Next Stop Everywhere. I will.
That's top 10. That's top 10 at least.
Oh, that is awesome.
All right, Jesse, how about you?
I'm going to give this 9 out of 10 Monument Valley scenes.
Nice. Well, apparently I'm on the high side of our ratings. I'm giving this one 10 out of 10 TARDIS blue envelopes.
Nice.
I love this story. I absolutely adore it. It's so much that I can overlook its flaws. I just love the characterization. I love the monster. The chemistry throughout this, the cinematography, the writing, the dialogue, all top notch. For me, this is a home run.
And you will not get an argument from either one of
No,
us. This
no.
is Christine. I am so glad. First off, I always love talking to you. You are a joy. And wow, you haven't corrected my language once, so you're off your game.
Are you trying to kick her out early? We
Game of
still have some more
Thrones.
show to do.
That's true. But yeah, I'm so glad you picked this episode.
Well, you know, I had the options narrowed down.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, and
I was
gotta
really
say,
hoping you would choose this one. So.
I was timid about doing this because there's just so much in this, and like I said, I reviewed several episodes in the season just to really make sure I had a big chunk of the story understood.
Well, I think you did just perfectly. So,
Thank you.
all right, you did okay in my book. All right, all right. So obviously, for the sake of time, I'm just gonna hit a very short reverse of the polarity. We're gonna do. I recommend if you love the Impossible Astronaut Day of the Moon, check out The Ambassadors of Death, the third serial from season 7 in 1970, written by David Whitaker. This is a Third Doctor and Liz Shaw story, and which involves some aliens in astronaut spacesuits walking around London, killing people because, hey, they've got kind of a death touch because they're kind of radioactive. And there's a lot going on, with the Doctor trying to find out, like, well, hey, these astronauts are actually turned out to be ambassadors from an alien race, and the real astronauts whose suits they procured are still up in orbit and need rescued. So lots of cool stuff with the Doctor, Liz. You get Unit. This is the first one where Sergeant Benton officially joins Unit, and this is a lot of fun. So if you kind of looking for a classic Who with that space vibe, check out The Ambassadors of Death. That's the short version. All right. So we do have some feedback. And Jesse, you want me to read both, or you want to read one? Or we have two this week. And I guess I'm going to go ahead and read both because I don't know where Jesse
I
went.
will. No, I'm.
You did?
I'm trying to be good and muting.
Okay.
Do you want David or Holly's?
Why don't you read Holly's? I'll read David's.
All right. Hey, Charles, Jesse, and Christine. That's us.
Yeah.
One of my favorite two-parters in the new Who run. River's back. We get the first appearance of the Silence and the introduction of Canton Everett Delaware III, played by the most Crowley. Yes, played by the most awesome Mark Sheppard and his father, William Morgan Sheppard. By the way, a line we didn't get: how many Canton Everett Delaware IIIs can there be? Well, at least 3.
Yeah.
The whole intrigue with what the Silence is doing and what's going on with Amy and how the moon landing in 1969 plays a part of it keeps your attention through both episodes, plus some of the one-liners. I was really chuckling when the Doctor introduces himself in the Team TARDIS as on the loan from Scotland Yard, codenamed the Doctor. These are my top operatives, the legs, the nose, and Mrs. Robinson. And River telling the Doctor she hates him. Thank you, Holly, for sneaking in another favorite quote. The Day of the Moon with more intrigue about who the astronaut is, plus we get a bit of the whole Rory, Amy, and the Doctor dynamic, and Amy's feelings for both. The Doctor and Rory, even though it was pretty much settled the season before, it's still there. The River and the Doctor flirting while rescuing Amy from the Silence, and Amy having to remind them that saving her is higher up than the Doctor and River's flirting had me chuckling yet again. And the Doctor using the Silence is telling the Doctor to kill them all on sight speech against the Silence during the space landing was awesome. And I didn't see it coming the first time it aired. And also the introduction of the plot thread of why the TARDIS medical skin showed Amy pregnant and not pregnant. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin. Thank you, Holly.
Amy's pregnancy is quantum locked. Didn't you know that?
Yes. Heretofore referred to as Schrodinger's pregnancy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Or Schrodinger's baby. Take your pick.
I like, well, Yeah, I guess it would be baby.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
about what's in there.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
not.
All right. So, in addition to Holly, thank you so much for writing in, Holly. We always love hearing from you. Um, please keep writing. And she's going to be joining us later this year. So stay tuned. She's coming back. So I'll just tease that for right now. David K. Proctor writes in about the Impossible Astronaut Day of the Moon. He says, sorry, this is long. Feel free to edit. Sorry, I'll try to talk really fast because we got to get this wrapped up. Here I was thinking this would be sad. I would be sad for the end of New Who. Thanks for going 2 strong episodes. I've said that Matt Smith isn't my doctor, but the question is, who are my companions? Amongst the top 5 are Alex Kingston / River Song and Karen Gillan, Amelia Pond, better known as Amy. Amelia Pond.
Amy's rubbish.
Yeah.
Amelia.
That's the name of a superhero. Yeah.
Yes.
Like My Life at Your Hands, Amelia Pond. Always love that. 2019 being the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11, I rewatched every moon-related movie and documentary I could find. This is a favorite. One has to give a shout out for one of the best inclusions of an LGBTQI plus character without making it about that. Canton Everett Delaware III. Thusly, love Nixon, or more likely hate him. Nixon couldn't go so far as to embrace diversity. What a different world we could have had if this hurdle had been jumped in 1969.
I think the moon is far enough for now.
Yes.
And
then you got to do that eye bulge.
Yeah. I have to say, Nixon was actually quite. I need the right word for this. Just accepting and helpful in this whole situation.
Yes.
Which I was unexpected, but maybe that just has to do with my current dealings with presidents.
Right, exactly. So comparatively speaking, Nixon's kind of raises a few notches. A few years back, my wife and I traveled to the UK and we made a special trip to Cardiff to visit the Doctor Who experience.
Jealous.
Lucky dog.
And jealous.
So jelly. The set that the Silence was using to control things was there. This makes this special to me as well. I've also been in that TARDIS control room in my head. That makes me a companion.
Yes. I agree with you.
Yeah. It doesn't make you a companion because I haven't been there. No, I'm just kidding.
The Doctor wasn't there at the time.
Exactly.
Just makes you breaking and entering. Yeah.
Iconic imagery. The nest of the Silence on the ceiling is perhaps the most visceral, frightening thing in all of Who. Amy's hell of being in 2 places. Amy having shot the little girl. Or did she? Because we didn't get the cliffhanger resolution.
Well,
just
she
saying.
missed.
Yeah.
She shot the face mask.
Yeah, exactly. Little grays. I give this 2-parter 9.9 out of 10 somethings I can't remember.
Ah!
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I think my execution was better.
Yes. Well, you're our special guest companion. Of course it was. We only have the best here on Next Stop Everywhere. I have to knock off a tiny bit for some very trivial goose on the part of the crew. Unfortunately, when you watch something over and over, goose stand out. I'll put the goose after, and you don't need to read them because this is already long. Yes, it is. I'm sure y'all will cover the great quotes, too. Y'all keep Who alive in the dark times. Eternal thanks. Thank you, David K. Proctor.
Wait, did he say goose as in wah, wah?
Yeah, goose. Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, goofs.
F. Goof with an F. Goof. Yeah.
Sorry,
my mouth was dry. I apologize.
The Untitled Goose Game has been discussed lately around here, so it's like maybe I'm just hearing it everywhere.
That's probably my elocution. Sorry about that. All right. All right. So thank you, David, for writing in. Always great to hear.
Thank you, David.
I want to hear about these goofs, but okay.
Yeah. Well, we can do that off air. So
yes.
All right, because I'm sure the listeners are like, wrap it up already. So,
2 drives to work has it covered.
All right. Just remember there's a pause button. It's okay to use it.
Yes.
All right. You can still go to the bathroom and then come back and finish the episode. All right. So if you want to be like Holly and David, please do. Write to us at Next Stop Everywhere, smg@gmail.com. The Gmail. Next Stop Everywhere, SMG for Southgate Media Group @gmail.com. Or on Twitter @NextStopSMG on Twitter. Facebook, the Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, coincidentally enough, and Instagram at Next Stop Everywhere podcast. And Christine, where can they find you on the interwebs?
Well, you can like my Facebook page where I am trying to post motion graphics related stuff on there. Please don't send me a friend request because I don't know who you are. But like the page. You can follow me on Twitter. Not that I say much, but I am C_Peruski. And I think that's all I'm doing right now. There's a certain someone who's losing a regular host on his podcast, Mr. Batchelder, the Mark Sheppard of podcasts. Please consider me as a new co-host. And also, if you liked my accents here, which you must be drinking something, you can also check out. Yeah, you can check out me doing multiple accents if you go to Audible and find the audiobooks Tales of the Airship Neverland and Fairy Dust Never Rusts.
Excellent. Well, if they're stupid enough not to take you, we'll be happy to have you back here on Next Stop Everywhere, whenever you want.
Well, thank you, Charles.
All right, open invitation. All right. Jesse, how about you? Where can they reach you?
You can find me on the internet at Jesse Jackson DFW. I'm also on Facebook. You can hear Charles and I talk about, let's say you just got a DC Universe subscription and you're checking out the Doom Patrol and Titans. You want to have...
With Mark Sheppard.
You want to see what's going on. Titan Talk is a podcast where Charles and I talk about those shows. Let's say you're just now finding Watchmen and you're binging it and you want to, I wish there was a great podcast that could talk me through what's happening. Well, the Phantom Zone podcast with Charles and I, you can go. And let's say for some reason you didn't ever watch Game of Thrones and you decided, what the heck, I think I'm going to watch Game of Thrones. Well, there's a podcast called Small Council Matters.
What?
Where
I've never heard of this.
Certain guest host, special companion, and I, along with some other great people, did discuss every episode of Game of Thrones, starting, I think, in season 3.
And we keep it tight and to the point, just like this episode.
Yes, we are. This is more Zan and Charles. We spent 2 hours talking about a 10-minute teaser trailer once. And then, of course, you can always go, if you are curious about how music can affect people's lives and make a difference, Set Lusting Bruce, the Bruce Springsteen podcast, where I talk to Springsteen fans from around the world, and I would appreciate you checking that out. Charles, how about you? Don't you do a couple other podcasts?
Well, you just mentioned them. All right. Yeah. Hi. You can reach me at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, or on Facebook, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio. Or you can please like and follow me there, or on my blog, Geek Things. Wait for the thing. Come on, you.
Damn good coffee.
And hot. Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Next Stop Everywhere. Your Doctor Who, your Torchwood, your Sarah Jane Adventures, all kinds of comic book sci-fi news of my other podcasts for Southgate Media, including the aforementioned Titan Talk, the Titans podcast with Jesse, the Phantom Zone podcast, also do with Jesse, and Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic artist Chris Sprouse, who, we've been talking Twin Peaks and having a lot of fun with that. We're back doing reviews, and coming up here with the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking Twin Peaks 30th anniversary on Ghostwood, and that should be rather enjoyable. And if you've heard Xanon here on the podcast, she's a blast. We have a ball on Ghostwood. She is one of the coolest people I have ever had the pleasure to meet, and I'm so lucky I get to do a podcast with her every couple of weeks. So please check us out on Ghostwood. I'm sure she would appreciate that as well. And other than that, next time, Next Stop Everywhere. Yes, we finally got here. Jesse and I are coming back to talk The Next Doctor, the 2008 Doctor Who Christmas special with David Tennant and the governor from The Walking Dead, that guy.
Oh yeah.
So
Episode.
yeah, so a lot, and the Return of the Cybermen. It's all kind of Christmassy. So it should be a lot of fun. So it's one of the. I think this is the last of the specials, and so this will be the final one of the specials that we haven't covered yet. And Jesse, I hope you're looking forward to it.
I am very much so.
All right. So everybody, thank you so much for listening. I know we ran long, but hey, it's a special occasion. Christine's here. We're going to make the most of it, and I think we did. So
Hey,
we
it
did.
was
Christine-
a double
Christine-
episode. It'll be a double podcast.
There you go.
Exactly. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure.
We always love having you here, and like I said, you're welcome back anytime you want to talk some Doctor Who. We posted. Oh yeah, that reminds me. We posted our schedule for out to October. So if there's a Doctor Who episode out there you want to join us on the podcast as a special guest companion, where Jesse and I are talking, and you could join us and make us look really, really bad by comparison. Please drop us a line at we told you how to contact us. So some people have already claimed some episodes, so you might want to hurry if you're interested in talking that with us. Otherwise, come on back next time. The next Doctor, or the Next Stop Everywhere Doctor, take your pick, right here on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.